Imagine you are walking through a massive, sprawling international airport.
That's it.
You know, you're exhausted, you're dragging your suitcase behind you, and you just look up at the ceiling to see this bright, illuminated sign that just says, departures.
Right. A sign we've all seen a million times.
Exactly. And you see that sign, and you think you know exactly what it means. But if you're standing in JFK in New York, departures means one very specific reality.
Yeah.
But if you're in Heathrow in London, it implies, you know, a completely different set of rules, completely different destinations, different airlines.
It's a highly localized concept that's sort of masquerading as a universal one.
Yes.
It's the illusion of uniformity. I mean, we constantly rely on these generic signposts to navigate the physical world, right? We just assume they mean the exact same thing everywhere we go.
We really do.
But the moment you pause and actually interrogate the sign itself, you realize it's hiding this massive web of complexity right beneath the surface.
And that is exactly what we are getting into today. Welcome to the deep dive, by the way. Today, we are looking at the digital equivalent of that airport sign for you, the learner. We're looking at a single, extremely bare-bones Wikipedia disambiguation page titled dollar coin.
Or, as the source text technically categorizes it, a set index article.
Right, a set index article. Okay, let's unpack this. Because at first glance, I mean, this is just a short list of bullet points.
Yeah, it's very brief.
It's the exact kind of page you click past in a fraction of a second. You don't even read it. But our mission today in this deep dive is to figure out what this incredibly mundane digital signpost actually reveals about global currency and human search behavior.
And really the hidden architecture of how we categorize knowledge on the internet.
Exactly.
Which is a really fascinating exercise. Because sometimes, you know, the shortest texts require the absolute deepest critical thinking.
For sure.
I mean, a set index article isn't designed to be read like a traditional essay. It's not a narrative. It's a functional tool. But precisely because it's just functional, it accidentally records a whole lot of human messiness.
Yeah, the human messiness is the best part. So let's start with the foundational definition the page provides. Because before we even look at the list of kinds, we really need to understand the baseline the internet is trying to establish for us here.
Right, the ground rules.
Exactly. So the source gives us this exact, incredibly literal definition. Quote, a dollar coin is a coin valued at $1 in a given currency.
Unquote.
Right. Now, I have to be honest, I read that and my very first reaction was, did we really need to write that down?
Pretty on the nose.
It feels like a dictionary defining a dog as, you know, a dog, or a shoe as a shoe.
It does. It sounds completely tautological to a human ear. Like, obviously, a dollar coin is a coin worth $1.
Right.
But we really have to remember the environment this text exists in. It functions as an anchor for the digital architecture. I mean, a search engine algorithm doesn't possess human common sense.
No, it just reads data.
Exactly. It doesn't inherently know that a dollar represents a unit of value, or that a coin is the physical manifestation of it. It requires a clearly stated baseline.
Okay, that makes sense from a machine standpoint. But even beyond the algorithm, I feel like there's a subtle reprogramming happening for the human reader, too. It's that phrase right at the end of the sentence, in a given currency.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
What's fascinating here is how that single dependent clause prepares the reader for all the fragmentation that follows.
Yeah.
By stating, in a given currency, the text immediately shatters the assumption that the word dollar implies some singular monolithic financial system.
It's a reality check.
It really is. It is essentially saying, hey, forget your localized assumption. We are operating on a global scale here.
And that global scale becomes very apparent very quickly when the source lists out the modern examples.
Let's hear them.
Okay, so we have the Australian $1 coin, we have the Canadian $1 coin, the Hong Kong $1 coin, the New Zealand $1 coin, and of course the dollar coin of the United States.
Right. And when you lay them all out side by side like that, you really start to see the linguistic footprint of the word dollar migrating across oceans.
It's everywhere.
It is. You have North America, Oceania, and Asia all represented under this one umbrella term.
It really challenges that persistent, you know, American-centric assumption that the word dollar automatically means the U.S. dollar.
Which is a very common bias.
Totally. It's like, okay, it's like realizing the term football applies to entirely different games depending on what continent you're standing on. You think you know what the word means until you actually zoom out.
That is a perfect analogy. I mean, if you say football in London or you say football in Dallas or football in Melbourne.
You're talking about distinctly different physical realities.
Exactly. Different shaped balls, totally different rules, different dimensions of the field. The only shared element there is the linguistic shell.
Right. And it's the same here. A Hong Kong dollar coin and a New Zealand dollar coin, they operate in totally independent, sovereign financial systems.
Completely isolated from each other.
Yeah. Like, if you try to use a New Zealand dollar to buy a coffee in Hong Kong, you're going to have a problem.
Yeah.
They share a name, sure, but they are entirely distinct entities.
So in this case, the Wikipedia page is essentially acting as the translator.
How so?
Well, it takes your generic search query, just typing in dollar coin, and forces you to specify which localized reality you actually meant to find.
Oh, I see. But here's where I want to push back a little bit on the idea of this page as a perfect rational translator.
Okay, go for it.
Because as we look closer at the specific list of items, it isn't actually a perfectly uniform taxonomy.
No, it's really not.
There are some glaring anomalies here. Let's talk about Canada, for example.
Right.
In this very short 8-item list, Canada somehow gets 2 completely distinct entries.
Which is strange for a standardized list.
Right. First, we have the Canadian $1 coin, or loonie.
Yeah.
And then immediately following it, a totally separate entry for the Canadian silver dollar.
And this is exactly where the text transitions from being a sterile dictionary definition to a reflection of actual human behavior.
But wait, Wikipedia prides itself on being an encyclopedia.
Yeah,
right?
much so.
Shouldn't it force users to learn the correct terminology rather than bending to our slang? Like, why does the Canadian coin get its specific nickname, the loonie, explicitly listed right here, while none of the others do?
That's a great question.
And why distinguish a Canadian silver dollar from the regular Canadian dollar, but not make that same material distinction for the United States or Australia?
It does sound completely counterintuitive for a formal encyclopedia. But if we connect this to the bigger picture, it reveals the fundamental difference between a set index article and a standard academic article.
Okay.
This isn't a scientifically uniform taxonomy curated by a strict, board of directors. It is a highly functional list built entirely around what human beings are actually typing into their search bars.
Ah, so it's crowdsourced logic.
Exactly. The encyclopedia isn't dictating how we should search, it's reacting to how we actually search.
That makes so much sense.
The asymmetry of the list tells a story of user friction, really. If the list were purely logical, it would just say Canadian dollar coin and leave it at that.
Which would mirror the exact formatting of the Australian $1 coin.
Precisely. But because people inevitably search for the colloquial term loonie when they're trying to find information about that specific coin, the index must accommodate that specific word.
The nickname has grown so culturally powerful that it forced its way into the formal architecture of the disambiguation page.
That's it exactly. The routing system has to build a bridge from the human slang to the formal article. Otherwise, the user just hits a dead end.
They just get an error. And I suppose the exact same logic applies to the Canadian silver dollar.
Without a doubt.
For whatever reason, in the long history of internet searches, enough people were specifically looking for the silver variant of the Canadian coin that it warranted its own dedicated off-ramp on this page.
Yep. Whereas no one was evidently searching for the silver variant of the Australian one in the same volume.
Wow. So it maps to collective interest, not to material reality.
Exactly. It maps to human curiosity.
Okay, but if we are talking about anomalies, we have to talk about the absolute biggest one on the page.
Oh, I know where you're going with it.
Because at the very bottom of the examples list, after we've traveled through the modern nation-states of Australia, Canada, Hong Kong, New Zealand, and the U.S.,
we get the Spanish milled dollar.
yes, it completely breaks the pattern.
Shatters it.
I'm looking at this thinking, did Spain suddenly adopt the dollar? Because everything else on this list is framed around modern geographical naming conventions.
Right.
And then suddenly, boom, we are thrown into a historical artifact. It doesn't say Spain $1 coin. It brings in a specific manufacturing technique, milled, and completely flattens time.
It really does.
It places a historical coin right alongside the modern currency you might have in your pocket in Hong Kong today.
This raises an important question about how search algorithms perceive time.
Yeah.
Because they really don't perceive it the way we do.
Yes.
Well, a digital disambiguation page does not respect chronology. It only respects the text of the search query.
Just the letters you typed.
Right. To the architecture of the website, the year 2017, and the era of the Spanish Empire, occupy the exact same layer of priority.
Because the algorithm doesn't know history. It just knows keywords.
Right. User types dollar coin, and the system essentially panics.
Panics.
Yeah, it says, do you mean the one from New Zealand today or the Spanish milled one from hundreds of years ago?
Yeah.
I don't know your context, so here are all your options simultaneously.
Wow, it's an incredible flattening of space and time.
It really is.
You have geography, slang, material composition, and deep history all colliding in a single 8-item list.
It's a digital collision.
Which leads us to a really critical question. If this page is just this chaotic reflection of what people search, a blend of slang and algorithmic panic, how does anyone actually maintain this system?
That is the million-dollar question, or the million-dollar coin question.
Huh, exactly. And that brings us to the actual mechanics of the page itself. The meta text hidden at the bottom of the screen.
The scaffolding of the internet.
Yes. And here's where it gets really interesting. Because under a section titled See Also, there is exactly one item listed. Just one.
Let me guess.
It's the $50 United States coin.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
So again, it breaks the implied promise of global neutrality that we saw in the very first definition.
Totally. I mean, if we just spent the entire first half of this deep dive establishing that a dollar coin is a global concept spanning Hong Kong, Canada, and Australia.
Why would the only related concept be a fractional coin from one specific country?
Right. Why not the Canadian $50? Or a 50-cent piece from New Zealand?
What's your theory on that?
To me, it feels like an artifact of who actually built the early internet.
Oh, interesting.
It points to a predominantly American user base in the early days of Wikipedia. The people constructing this page thought of dollar broadly, sure. But when it came to related concepts, their bias just crept right in. They linked to what they personally knew, the U.S. $50.
That is a very astute reading of the digital archaeology there. The See Also section often reveals the cultural blind spots of the editors.
Yeah.
But, you know, the most revealing part of the page's architecture isn't the links themselves, it's the warning text right at the very bottom.
Yes, the routing instructions. Let me read what the text says. This set index article includes a list of related items that share the same name or similar names. If an internal link incorrectly led you here, you may wish to change the link to point directly to the intended article.
That is a profound statement about the nature of this digital space.
It really is. The way I read it, you aren't actually supposed to stay on this page.
Not at all.
Like, if a normal Wikipedia article is a curated museum exhibit, this page is the digital lost and found. It's a busy train station concourse. It's a room you only enter when you've taken a wrong turn on the internet.
Exactly.
You clicked a link in some other article expecting a specific destination, and instead, you ended up in this weird routing hub.
And look closely at the phrasing of the solution it offers you. You may wish to change the link.
Yeah.
It is a direct call to action, directed at the reader, at you.
Which I find absolutely wild. It's literally handing the lost traveler the tool belt.
It is.
But, I mean, isn't that a terrible way to build a massive database? Letting the people who literally just got lost draw the map.
It sounds totally chaotic on paper, but it is the defining philosophy of decentralized responsibility.
Decentralized responsibility.
Yeah. The system doesn't say, please report this broken link to the site administrator so an expert can review it.
Yeah.
It says, hey, you found a broken wire in the internet, you fix it.
Because there is no central authority capable of fixing millions of broken wires simultaneously.
Exactly. The page openly acknowledges its own friction. It is a place of error. It's an incorrect destination.
Right.
And it asks the lost traveler to just pave a better road for the next person so they don't get lost in the exact same way.
Wow.
It is a system that relies entirely on the altruism of this slightly annoyed internet user.
You are the lost traveler, but you are also the digital city planner.
Exactly right.
And what's fascinating about this specific digital transit hub is that we know exactly how long it has been sitting in its current state, just relying on that altruism.
We have the timestamp.
We do. The source text includes a line from the hidden categories at the very bottom of the page. It says, this page was last edited on 25 October 2017 at 0.14 UTC.
It has been frozen for quite a long time.
Think about how much the world has changed since late 2017.
Oh, drastically.
Think about how much the global economy has fluctuated, how much geopolitics have shifted, how many massive technological revolutions we've had.
Yeah.
But this one specific room on the internet, this routing hub for the concept of a dollar coin, has been sitting completely untouched since a random Tuesday in October of 2017.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the lack of edits isn't necessarily a sign of neglect.
Oh, it's not.
No, it can also be a sign of structural stability.
Okay, explain that.
Well, the core ambiguities of the term dollar coin, the overlap between Canada, Australia, Hong Kong, New Zealand, the U.S., and that Spanish milled dollar, those haven't fundamentally changed.
Yeah. The human search behaviors haven't shifted enough to require a new off-ramp.
Precisely. The slang hasn't changed.
Right.
The loonie is still the loonie. No new major English-speaking nation has adopted a dollar coin that required a brand new bullet point.
Right.
So the page just sits there, quietly doing its job, routing thousands of lost travelers to their correct destinations without needing a single update.
It is a perfectly preserved time capsule of our linguistic confusion.
It really is.
And you can really see the contrast between that frozen text and the hyperfluid technology surrounding it. The source text captures these weird technical artifacts like birthday mode disabled and text standard color light.
Right. Those are the user interface settings.
Yeah, it highlights how customized the frame around the information is today. The website is built to constantly adapt to your specific screen size, your text size preference, your lighting, whether you want dark mode or light mode.
The shell is infinitely flexible.
But the core text, the actual 8-item list, remains stubbornly fixed in 2017.
It highlights the tension between the dynamic nature of how we consume digital information and the sometimes rigid historical nature of the information itself.
Right.
We all want our data delivered to these customized, sleek, modern interfaces, but the data itself is often just a quirky, outdated list of human compromises.
So what does this all mean? We started this deep dive with a seemingly simple task, right? Reading a short Wikipedia disambiguation page for dollar coin.
A very simple task.
But by just refusing to glance past it, we uncovered an entire philosophy of information architecture.
We moved from a tautological definition to a global map of distinct sovereign currencies that just happen to share a linguistic shell.
Yeah.
We saw how the word dollar is heavily localized, despite sounding so universal.
And we saw how human quirks and slang, like the Canadian loonie, force supposedly sterile, rational encyclopedias to adapt to how we actually speak in real life.
Yes, we examined the algorithmic flattening of history, where a Spanish milled dollar sits right next to a modern Hong Kong coin, because a search engine just can't tell the difference between a historical era and a modern pocket.
And perhaps most importantly, we explored the hidden architecture of the decentralized internet, the digital lost and found that relies entirely on the passing traveler to fix the broken links and maintain the pathways of human knowledge.
It proves that even the most mundane digital signposts are just packed with complexities.
It really makes you want to stop and read the warning labels on every single web page you visit instead of just scrolling past them.
It certainly challenges the idea that any piece of digital infrastructure is truly simple or purely objective. Every list, every index is curated by human behavior.
And as we wrap up today, I want to leave you, the learner, with one final provocative thought to mull over. Right at the very bottom of the source text, buried way under the technical settings and that 2017 timestamp, is this line in the legal disclaimers. It says, text is available under the Creative Commons Attribution Share Alike 4.0 license. Additional terms may apply.
The legal mechanism that allows free knowledge to propagate.
Exactly. This specific text, this quirky, inconsistent 8-item list, is legally designed to be freely shared, copied, distributed, and adapted by anyone, anywhere in the world in perpetuity.
Wow.
So I want you to imagine a digital historian hundreds or even thousands of years from now.
Just excavating the ruins of the early 21st century internet.
Right. They are trying to understand our society, and they uncover this exact text perfectly preserved under that Creative Commons license, frozen since October 2017. How might they use this highly inconsistent list to define what the concept of money meant to us back then?
It's a fascinating thought experiment. I mean, if this is the only surviving document about the dollar coin, what conclusions do they draw?
Would they look at the fact that Canada gets 2 entries and assume the Canadian loonie was our most prized global possession because it was the only currency we gave an affectionate nickname to?
Maybe.
Would they look at the flattening of time and assume the Spanish milled dollar was still being actively spent in the streets of New York alongside modern U.S. coins?
That's entirely possible.
Or would they look at the See Also section and conclude that the United States half dollar was somehow the central pillar holding the entire global economy together?
It is a profound reminder that the data we leave behind is rarely a perfect reflection of reality. It is merely a reflection of our imperfect, localized attempts to categorize it.
So the next time you find yourself lost in a sprawling digital airport and you look up to read a sign that just says departures, take a second to appreciate the complexity hiding right behind the lettering.
You might just be looking at a masterpiece of human inconsistency.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We'll catch you next time.